Ethan Cade had never seen a celebration like this before. Orion Station was alive with lights, sounds, and colors he had never imagined. The corridors shimmered with alien technology, glowing softly as ships of all shapes and sizes docked and departed. Music floated through the air, a rhythm that seemed to blend countless cultures into one mesmerizing sound. Every corner was filled with beings of every imaginable form, some with scales, some with fur, some with skin that shimmered like liquid metal. Ethan felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. This was his first diplomatic mission in the outer sectors, and already he could tell that humans were small players in a galaxy so vast and ancient. He moved cautiously through the crowd, keeping an eye on the towering aliens in flowing robes and the smaller ones that darted between legs with astonishing speed. Humans were rare here. Every step he took drew curious glances, and he felt the familiar tug of self-consciousness. He reminded himself that he was here as a representative of Earth, not just a visitor. Still, he could not deny a sense of wonder. Then he saw her. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Lyra stood on a raised platform where performers entertained the crowd. Her skin glowed softly, like moonlight reflected on water. Her eyes, large and shining, seemed almost too bright to be real, sparkling with hints of silver and violet. Her hair floated gently, moving as if the air itself was alive around her. She was dancing, but not like any dance Ethan had learned or seen. Every movement was precise yet effortless, flowing as though her body was part of the music itself. People around her clapped and cheered, yet Ethan felt as though the noise faded, leaving only the rhythm of her steps and the pull of her gaze. His heart raced. He had always considered himself cautious, careful, and logical, but something about Lyra drew him in like a magnet. He couldn't explain it, and yet he knew he had to meet her. Ethan took a deep breath and approached. His legs felt heavier with every step, though it was not fear he felt. It was anticipation. When he reached the platform's edge, he caught her eye. Lyra paused, tilting her head slightly, as if acknowledging his presence. The crowd's cheers continued around them, but she seemed to exist in a world apart. "Would you like to dance?" Ethan asked, his voice firmer than he felt. He did not know why he was speaking these words. It was impulsive, reckless even, and yet it felt necessary. Lyra regarded him silently. For a moment, Ethan feared he had overstepped. Then, with a subtle smile that revealed a hint of fangs too delicate to be threatening, she nodded. "I would enjoy that," she said, her voice soft and melodic, echoing slightly in the air as though carrying a weight beyond normal sound. He stepped onto the platform, and she guided his hands. The music shifted, slower now, as if sensing the bond forming. At first, Ethan stumbled, trying to match her fluid grace, but she adjusted him with the gentlest touch, and soon he moved with a confidence he did not know he possessed. Each spin, each turn made him feel lighter, freer. He laughed, a sound he had not allowed himself to make in weeks, and she laughed too, though it was quiet and musical like wind through crystal towers. Time seemed to stretch. Ethan felt his mind clear in a way he had never experienced. He was acutely aware of every motion, every note of the music, and of her presence beside him. He could feel the warmth in her gaze, the subtle pressure of her hand guiding him, the faint brush of her hair against his arm. It was intoxicating. He wanted to ask her everything, where she was from, why she was here, what she had seen, but no words seemed necessary. The dance itself was the conversation. Yet amid the enchantment, something felt strange. He noticed the shadows around her, darker than the others, stretching toward her like they were drawn to her. When she moved, they followed almost instinctively, bending unnaturally. Ethan blinked, questioning if it was a trick of the lights, but the feeling lingered. And there was something else, an almost imperceptible pull in his mind, like a whisper he could not hear but somehow understood. He shook his head, trying to dismiss it. Perhaps he was overthinking. Perhaps it was just the thrill of being near someone so extraordinary. The dance ended too quickly. Ethan expected applause, but the crowd's attention had already shifted to another performance. Lyra stepped back, her eyes meeting his. "You move with more confidence than I expected," she said, her smile both approving and enigmatic. "Thanks," he replied, his chest still heaving from exertion. I'm Ethan." As the evening continued, Ethan tried to speak with her, to learn more about this mysterious alien woman. He offered drinks, small talk, anything to keep the connection alive. Lyra listened politely, responding in a way that was engaging yet measured. There was intelligence in her words, a sharpness that hinted at experience far beyond her youthful appearance. She was clearly someone used to being in control, observing before acting, weighing every interaction carefully. Yet, despite her poise, Ethan could sense a tension beneath the surface. Her eyes would flick to the darker corners of the room as if she was aware of things others could not see. He noticed subtle movements, the way she avoided certain people, the way her body seemed to react instinctively to potential threats. He could not place it, but there was something dangerous about her, something that made the blood in his veins thrum faster. He was both terrified and captivated. The rational part of him screamed to step back, to retreat to the safety of his quarters and forget this strange, glowing woman. But his heart refused. There was something about her that called to the very essence of his humanity, the need to understand, to connect, to rise to a challenge that others might flee from. Later, as the night deepened, the crowd thinned, leaving only the lingering hum of music and conversations. Ethan found himself walking beside her on the balcony overlooking the station's central atrium. The stars stretched out endlessly, the lights of ships and stations flickering like distant fireflies. "You like it here?" Lyra asked, her tone soft, almost intimate. "I do," Ethan replied. "It's alive, different from anywhere I've been." He paused, gathering courage. "And I'm glad I met you." She spoke truthfully, but her words carried a weight, a knowledge that made him aware of just how small humans might seem in the vast galaxy. And yet he felt no fear, not entirely. There was fascination, yes, and a thrill that bordered on danger, but also a growing certainty that humans had strengths others underestimated. Courage, ingenuity, and heart were things no alien technology or ancient power could fully suppress. Before he could say more, Lyra stepped closer, her hand brushing lightly against his. The contact was electric, a reminder that the bond formed tonight was real, however fleeting it might be. Ethan's mind raced with questions, plans, and wonderings, but he sensed instinctively that the night's enchantment was only the beginning. When she finally departed, slipping silently back into the crowd, Ethan watched her go with a mixture of admiration and unease. She was extraordinary, but not ordinary in ways that could be fully understood. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice, maybe his own intuition, maybe something else, warned him that Lyra was far more than she appeared. There was power in her that could be both beautiful and dangerous, and he could not yet tell which side he would encounter if their paths crossed again. As he returned to his quarters, Ethan lay awake staring at the ceiling. He thought of the dance of her eyes, of the way she had moved with effortless grace. And though he did not know what the future held, he felt an undeniable pull toward it, toward her, toward the unknown. Orion Station was alive with lights and music, but somewhere in the shadows, something older and sharper watched. Something that did not belong to humans, that had its own plans and desires. Ethan did not know it yet, but his life, and perhaps the fate of many worlds, was about to intersect with forces he could scarcely imagine. For the first time in a long while, he felt truly alive, and that feeling, fragile and thrilling, was enough to make him ready for whatever came next. The morning on Orion Station felt different after the night's celebration. Ethan Cade walked through the crowded corridors, but his mind was elsewhere. He could still see Lyra's glowing eyes, feel the weight of her gaze, and remember the fluid grace of her movements. Every corner of the station now seemed dull in comparison to the memory of her. He tried to focus on his mission. As a human representative, his purpose was to negotiate trade agreements and maintain Earth's presence in the outer sectors. But even the most urgent reports and diplomatic briefs could not push Lyra from his thoughts. Something about her lingered, an impression that was more than attraction, more than curiosity. There was an intensity in her presence that tugged at the edges of his perception, almost as if she had left a mark on him. While walking through the station's main atrium, he overheard whispers from other aliens. Small clusters of beings murmured, pointing subtly toward certain areas. Ethan stopped and listened. The words were faint, but one name stood out. Sanguine. He frowned. He had never heard of the Sanguine before, but the tones of fear and awe in the speakers' voices were unmistakable. He pressed closer, careful not to appear intrusive. One of the alien diplomats, a tall figure with green-scaled skin, spoke quietly to a companion. "The Sanguine royalty walks among us. The queen herself is said to be here, rare and dangerous." Could it be Lyra? The description fit too well, the luminous skin, the hypnotic movements, the air of control. And yet the idea was almost unbelievable. Vampires were a myth on Earth, and yet in the depths of space, myths could be truths in strange forms. He spent the next hours in a daze. Meetings were brief, his mind wandering to the possibilities. If Lyra was truly part of a powerful and feared alien race, then the encounter last night had not been casual. She had allowed him to dance, to talk, to exist close to her, even knowing who he was. That thought sent shivers down his spine. By mid-afternoon, reports arrived from the outer colonies. Ethan read the data in disbelief. A remote mining colony on the edge of Surus Belt had been destroyed overnight. The entire population was gone. The reports were vague. Satellites captured only fleeting shadows, energy signatures that did not match any known technology. Survivors were non-existent. The few logs recovered spoke of creatures with glowing eyes, shadows moving unnaturally, and a sense of overwhelming presence. Ethan felt a chill. The description was almost identical to the way Lyra had moved during the dance. He could not deny the possibility. A part of him wanted to dismiss it as coincidence, as fear-driven exaggeration. But deep down, a voice in his mind urged caution. Whatever Lyra truly was, she was powerful, possibly more than anyone, human or alien, could handle. That evening, he returned to the observation deck of Orion Station. From here, he could see the surrounding sectors, the twinkling lights of distant worlds, and the endless expanse of space. His mind raced, trying to connect the dots. Was Lyra involved in the destruction, or was there a larger threat? The whispers of the sanguine royalty and the colony's devastation pressed him to find answers. As he pondered, a shadow moved at the edge of the deck. He turned sharply, expecting a stray maintenance droid, but instead he saw her. Lyra emerged from the darkness, her glowing skin soft in the dim lights, her eyes reflecting a silver light. Ethan froze, unsure whether to approach or retreat. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm and melodic, carrying the same weight of authority he had sensed during their dance. "I was wondering when you would connect the reports to me." "The Sanguine are my people," she said. "What happened to that colony was not done without reason. We exist in a galaxy that fears us. We take what is necessary to survive. Out here, the universe does not distinguish between the innocent and the unprepared. We did what was required to maintain balance and protect our existence." The rational part of him recognized her logic, even as his human morality recoiled. I don't know if I can understand that," Ethan admitted, his voice quieter now. "But I do know that humans survive in different ways. We adapt. We protect even when the odds are against us. We find ways to overcome impossible situations without destroying others." "You are different from others of your kind," she said. "Most would flee or cower at my presence. You stand and speak. You do not fear entirely. That is unusual. And if you are powerful, I want to understand you not just as a threat, but as someone who could change everything out here. Perhaps that is why I allowed our encounter last night. We need to prevent more destruction. I want to help if I can. You could influence change, if you survive the lessons you have yet to learn." "Teach me," he said finally, "not to be like you but to understand you, to prevent harm where I can. And even courage may not be enough to protect you from the shadows that follow us." Her eyes missed nothing. Every detail, every shift of the crowd, every subtle signal was absorbed and analyzed. Ethan noticed the strength in her movements, the precision in her gestures, and the quiet confidence that radiated from her. She was a ruler, and every action she took carried weight, yet she was not without kindness. Occasionally, she would pause to assist a struggling alien, offer guidance with quiet patience, or even share a subtle smile with Ethan when he made a witty observation. These moments were brief, fleeting, but they revealed a complexity that few could imagine, an alien being of immense power who still retained a spark of empathy. Then the reports grew darker. More colonies reported attacks, strange energy drainings, and shadows that moved independently. Panic began to spread in nearby sectors. Ethan realized the threat was real, but something inside him told him that Lyra was not entirely responsible. There were others, rogue members of her kind, perhaps, who had not yet been controlled by her authority. One evening, as they watched the stars from the observation deck, Ethan spoke quietly. "Lyra, if what is happening is the work of your people, can it be stopped without more destruction? Humans, you may be small, but your resilience is remarkable. You may yet show us a different way." He realized that humans may not have the strength of the Sanguine, but they had something just as powerful: heart, morality, and courage. And for the first time, he understood why he had been drawn to her. Not because she was beautiful or alien or terrifying, but because she represented a choice. A choice between darkness and light, fear and trust, destruction and protection. And he, a human, could make a difference. The night stretched on, stars glimmering endlessly beyond the station. Ethan felt the weight of responsibility settle on him, but also a growing sense of purpose. The galaxy was vast, and its dangers were real, but he had found someone who could change its course, and perhaps, with courage and wisdom, humans could shape the future of even the most powerful beings. He did not yet know what lay ahead, but for the first time he felt ready to face it. Ethan Cade had spent days trying to understand Lyra and her people, but the more he learned, the more the danger became real. Reports from nearby colonies painted a terrifying picture. Entire settlements drained of energy, crops withering overnight, and shadows moving independently, attacking anyone who resisted. The evidence pointed to rogue sanguine operatives acting outside Lyra's control. Yet Ethan could not shake the memory of her last words, the promise that humans were different, that courage and morality could influence even her kind. He resolved to find her directly, to speak face-to-face about the chaos spreading across the galaxy. He traced her to a remote sector where the Sanguine were rumored to maintain a hidden orbital fortress. The fortress hovered above a planet long abandoned, its surface scarred with the remnants of ancient battles. Ethan approached cautiously, the ship's sensors warning him of energy fluctuations far beyond human technology. Shadows flickered across the view screen as they neared the fortress, moving unnaturally fast, almost as if alive. Docking near the fortress, Ethan prepared himself. He knew he was far out of his depth, but fear did not drive him back. Instead, a quiet determination settled over him. He had to understand Lyra and convince her to take control of the rogue Sanguine to prevent further destruction. The fate of countless colonies depended on it. Inside the fortress, the air was cool and still, carrying a faint hum of power that resonated through the metal walls. Ethan felt a weight pressing against him, not physical but mental, as though the building itself recognized him as an outsider. He moved cautiously, every step echoing, aware of shadows shifting around him. Then she appeared. Lyra emerged from a hallway ahead, her presence commanding even in silence. Her luminous skin glowed softly, casting light on the walls around her. Her eyes, bright and intense, seemed to pierce directly into Ethan's mind. "Ethan Cade," she said, her voice calm but carrying authority that made the hair on his arms stand on end. "You chose to follow me here. Few humans would have the courage, or perhaps the recklessness. That is not the way of the Sanguine. Sometimes it's making the choice to do what others will not. But I warn you, Ethan Cade, the truth may be more than you can bear." Shadows danced around her like living ribbons drawn to her power. Ethan's breath caught. He had sensed her strength before, but seeing it fully was different. The air itself seemed to respond to her presence, bending slightly, vibrating with energy. The lights in the room flickered as if unsure how to exist in her presence. "I am the vampire queen of the Sanguine," she said, her voice echoing in the chamber. "I am the ruler, the protector, the predator. My kind has existed for millennia, surviving in ways you cannot imagine. We take what we need to endure, and we dominate because the galaxy fears weakness. The people being destroyed." She was not evil, she was a ruler maintaining balance in a galaxy that offered no mercy. And yet innocent lives were at stake. "I don't understand how you can justify this," he said, voice trembling slightly. "These people, they didn't deserve to die. There has to be another way. There has to be a choice that doesn't lead to destruction. And that is why humans are fascinating. You value morality over instinct. You act even when you are afraid. You challenge power with principle, perhaps. You can teach us something we have long forgotten." He was alone, unarmed, against a being of immense power, and yet he felt a surge of confidence. He was human, and humans were resilient in ways the galaxy often underestimated. "Then let me help you," he said. "Not as a subordinate, but as someone who can offer a different perspective. There are ways to survive without destroying everything in your path. Your strength is remarkable, but strength without restraint is not leadership. Many would die from standing here speaking these words, yet you speak with conviction, with the certainty of your kind. Perhaps you are correct. Perhaps there is another way, but to change centuries of behavior will not be easy, not for the Sanguine, not for me. We can't afford to do nothing. And even if you survive, the choices you make will matter more than you can comprehend." Instead, they formed shapes, showing images of distant worlds, colonies under attack, rogue Sanguine operatives in action. He saw entire planets drained of energy, communities frozen in fear, and creatures moving with deadly precision. "This is what you face," Lyra said. "This is the reality of power unrestrained. Can you endure it? Can you influence it?" I will find a way to stop the rogue sanguine and protect the innocent. I will not fail. He was about to step into a world far beyond anything humans had ever known, to face powers and dangers that could destroy him in an instant. But he also felt a sense of purpose, a clarity he had never experienced. For the first time, he realized that being human was not a limitation, it was a strength. His courage, his morality, and his ingenuity were tools that even the most powerful beings could not ignore. Lyra extended her hand, and he took it. The contact was electric, a reminder that he was not merely a spectator, but an active participant in shaping the future. Together, they would confront the rogue elements of her kind, face dangers beyond imagination, and challenge the galaxy's perception of power. As they stood side by side, shadows swirling and energy pulsing around them, Ethan understood the truth. Humans might not have the raw power of the sanguine, but they had something equally formidable: heart, determination, and the courage to stand against impossible odds. And for the first time, he felt ready to face whatever came next. The day Ethan agreed to follow Lyra into her world, the fortress felt alive in ways he had never imagined. Shadows moved in the corners of his vision, subtle yet aware, responding to her presence as though she commanded them with a thought. The air thrummed with energy, vibrating faintly in rhythm with his heartbeat. He had never felt anything like it, and yet he did not flinch. He was here because he had chosen to be, and he knew that the risks were part of what made the journey meaningful. Lyra led him through the central chamber toward a large observation deck overlooking one of the rogue sanguine's recent attacks. A mining colony below had been nearly wiped out, its energy drained to near nothing. Ethan's stomach tightened at the sight, but Lyra placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Her touch was gentle, grounding him despite the power radiating from her. "Your kind values life in ways mine has long ignored," she said softly. "You see worth where others see utility. That is remarkable. It is also why I believe you can help me." It meant risking his life repeatedly, facing creatures that could destroy him without a second thought. And yet he felt no hesitation. He had a choice now, a chance to prove that human ingenuity, morality, and courage were forces even the strongest could not ignore. "Then show me," he said. "Show me what I need to do to stop the rogue sanguine." Shadows swirled around her as she moved, forming creatures of light and darkness to illustrate her teachings. Ethan watched carefully, absorbing every detail. "Notice their weaknesses," Lyra instructed. "They rely on instinct. They follow hunger, desire, and fear. Intelligence is wasted on them. Strategy is unnecessary, yet even the strongest instincts can be disrupted. That is where humans excel." He realized that this was not merely training in combat. It was a lesson in strategy, psychology, and understanding an entirely alien perspective. Over the next days, Lyra pushed him further. They trained with simulations of energy-draining attacks, recreated rogue sanguine movements, and analyzed countless scenarios. Ethan learned to predict the creature's behavior, to manipulate their instincts, and to exploit their reliance on fear. Each lesson was exhausting, both physically and mentally, but he found himself growing, not in raw strength, but in understanding and confidence. During one late-night session, Lyra paused and observed him. "You are learning quickly, Ethan. Your instincts are unusual. Humans often rely on emotion, yet you temper it with logic. That combination is dangerous to my kind, because it cannot be anticipated. You will see soon." As their ship approached the colony, Ethan's nerves tightened. Below, the rogue sanguine moved with terrifying speed, draining life and energy from the settlers. Shadows flickered unnaturally, twisting into shapes that were both terrifying and mesmerizing. Ethan watched carefully, recalling every lesson Lyra had taught him. "Remember," she said softly beside him, "predict, distract, disrupt. Your mind and courage are your weapons, not brute strength." Lyra moved with him, her shadows weaving around the rogue sanguine, guiding and controlling their movements. Together, human ingenuity and sanguine power worked in harmony. Ethan's strategy forced the rogue operatives into patterns that made them vulnerable, while Lyra's energy contained and restrained them. The battle was tense and exhausting. Ethan's mind raced, calculating timing, predicting movement, and adjusting his approach with every second. Shadows threatened to overwhelm him, but he remembered her lessons. Confidence, creativity, and morality could be as powerful as strength. Finally, the rogue sanguine were contained. They were immobilized, their energy streams severed temporarily, enough for Lyra to command them back under her control. The colony below was safe, the settlers unaware of how close they had come to disaster. Ethan exhaled deeply, feeling a mixture of relief, pride, and exhaustion. Lyra turned to him, her expression a mixture of admiration and seriousness. "You did well, human. Many of my kind would have failed this test. You have learned quickly. You have proven that courage and intelligence, guided by morality, can influence outcomes even beyond your species' strength. Even the strongest being cannot control everything alone. You have shown me that leadership is not only about power, but about influence and understanding." And he, a human, was discovering his own potential in ways he never imagined. He was learning to act in a galaxy of power far beyond Earth, not with fear, but with skill, intelligence, and principle. In the following days, their partnership deepened. Ethan assisted in coordinating defenses for vulnerable colonies, combining human strategies with Lyra's supernatural abilities. They faced numerous challenges: rogue sanguine breaking containment, unexpected energy surges, and colonies on the brink of collapse. Each time, Ethan's quick thinking and adaptability turned potential disasters into victories. Lyra watched him closely, noting his ability to remain calm under pressure, his willingness to think differently, and his steadfast adherence to morality even when the stakes were high. She realized that humans were underestimated in the galaxy not because of weakness, but because their strengths were subtle, unpredictable, and often invisible to more powerful species. During one quiet moment, Ethan and Lyra stood on the fortress balcony overlooking a recovering colony. The sun of the nearby star glinted off the metallic structures, casting long shadows across the landscape. Ethan felt a quiet satisfaction. They had saved countless lives, yet he knew the galaxy still held countless dangers. "You have changed my perspective," Lyra said softly, her eyes reflecting the light. "Humans are more remarkable than I allowed myself to believe. Perhaps there is hope for my people after all." "That's something humans can offer." Rogue sanguine who had once terrorized colonies were now restrained, and the potential for further destruction was being managed. He had become more than a human observer. He was an active participant in redefining power and morality in a universe that often overlooked them. As night fell over the orbital fortress, Ethan stood beside Lyra, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. The shadows around them swirled gently, responding to her presence but tempered by his influence. He realized that their alliance was not just about stopping destruction. It was about showing that humans could compete with the most powerful beings through courage, intelligence, and moral conviction. Ethan knew the path ahead would not be easy. Rogue sanguine still lurked, and the galaxy remained unpredictable and dangerous. But he also knew something else. Humans had strengths that no creature, no matter how powerful, could ignore. Courage, morality, adaptability, these were the tools that could change the course of events, even in a universe dominated by power. He looked at Lyra, the vampire queen who had once seemed untouchable, and understood that their partnership was a rare and powerful combination. Together, human ingenuity and sanguine might could redefine the meaning of leadership, survival, and influence. And for the first time, Ethan felt a deep, unshakable confidence. He was human, yes, but he was also a force in a galaxy that had underestimated his kind for too long. And as he prepared for the challenges still to come, he knew that their combined strength, human courage and sanguine power, could achieve what neither could accomplish alone. The galaxy seemed quieter now, but Ethan Cade knew that peace was fragile. The rogue sanguine who had terrorized colonies were restrained, but their influence remained. Lyra had called a council of her people to confront the growing chaos among the sanguine, and Ethan was to witness it. He knew this would not be a simple negotiation. This was a confrontation that could decide the fate of countless worlds. The council chamber was immense, far larger than anything Ethan had ever seen. Towers of crystal and metal rose from the floor, casting refracted light across the room. Shadows moved along the walls, alive but obedient, controlled by Lyra's presence. At the center of the chamber sat the council members, each one radiating power. Their eyes glimmered with the same intensity as Lyra's, and their postures exuded centuries of authority. Ethan felt a mixture of awe and tension. These were beings who had survived countless generations, their strength unmatched. And yet he reminded himself that humans had survived impossible odds too. Courage, morality, and ingenuity were tools that even immortal beings could underestimate. Lyra stepped forward, her luminous skin glowing in the dim light. Shadows rose from the floor, twisting around her in a display of control and dominance. My people, she began, her voice calm but carrying authority that echoed through the chamber. We have faced disorder among us. Rogue sanguine have taken what is not theirs, harming worlds and lives beyond our own. This ends today. One of the elder council members, a towering figure with skin like liquid obsidian, spoke first. And you bring this human with you? Do you not see the risk? He is fragile. He is insignificant. Why involve one so weak in matters that concern the survival of our kind? I may be human and I may be small, but I have seen what courage, intelligence, and morality can do. I have seen what humans can achieve when faced with impossible odds. I am here because even the strongest cannot act alone. Even immortals cannot manage everything. Sometimes, influence is more powerful than raw strength. Lyra's eyes softened as she glanced at him. Listen to him, she said. Humans are different. Their strength is not measured by power but by choices. That is what I wish to show you. That is why we are here. Weakness will lead to extinction. More will fall unless you change the way you act. Our rogue elements are not our strength. They are a weakness. Power without direction is dangerous, even for us. I will not allow more worlds to suffer because my people lack discipline, but together we can channel our abilities differently, and humans can teach us how. The room was filled with the faint hum of energy, as though the very structure awaited their decision. Finally, one of the younger council members spoke, her voice tinged with curiosity. And what would this human propose? That we abandon our ways, our traditions, that we change how we lead and survive. Strength without purpose can harm you more than it helps. You are capable of greatness beyond fear and hunger, but only if you choose it. The galaxy does not fear those who survive, it respects those who act with wisdom and courage. Why should we listen? You underestimate what humans can accomplish when they act deliberately. We can lead without causing suffering. Perhaps strength alone is insufficient, but can your methods truly guide us? Can a human truly influence the sanguine? We can show the galaxy that strength guided by courage, morality, and intelligence is more powerful than strength alone. We will choose a path that ensures survival without needless destruction, and we will do so with humans as our allies, not our subjects. Ethan felt a surge of relief and pride. They had done it, not through fear, not through dominance, but through courage, intelligence, and the willingness to stand for what was right. Lyra turned to him, her eyes reflecting admiration and gratitude. You have shown me that humans are capable of greatness in ways I had underestimated. Your courage and determination have influenced more than you know. You have helped reshape the future of my people and the galaxy. You are the one who changed things. Ethan realized something profound. Humanity might not have raw strength like the sanguine, but their courage, intelligence, and morality could influence even the most powerful beings. Humans could not only survive, they could inspire, guide, and transform the galaxy. As they stood side by side on the observation deck, the sun of a distant star glinting across the crystal towers of the council chamber, Ethan felt a sense of peace he had never known. They had faced impossible odds, confronted immense power, and emerged not only victorious but wiser. The galaxy had been changed, and humans had proven their worth, not through dominance but through courage, morality, and the ability to act when others would not. Lyra turned to him, her expression soft but resolute. Ethan Cade, you have done more than survive. You have helped me reshape my people. You have reminded me that power is meaningless without guidance, and strength is hollow without morality. Humans are remarkable, and I will ensure that my people remember this lesson. Humans had survived the galaxy's dangers not by being the strongest, but by being courageous, adaptable, and moral. They had inspired even the most powerful to reconsider their ways. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but for the first time, Ethan felt hope. Humans had proven themselves capable of greatness, even among beings of unimaginable power. Courage, morality, and intelligence were forces that no darkness could fully extinguish. As he looked out at the stars, he knew that the journey was far from over. Rogue elements might rise again, dangers might appear, and the galaxy would remain unpredictable. But humans had made their mark, showing that even the smallest and seemingly weakest could shape the fate of countless worlds. Lyra's hand brushed lightly against his. The future is not yet written, she said, but with humans like you, I believe it can be brighter than we ever imagined. He had faced the unknown, confronted power, and proven that humanity had a place among the stars, not just to survive, but to inspire, guide, and transform. The stars stretched endlessly before them, bright and full of possibilities. And in that moment, Ethan knew that humans would continue to rise, not by brute force, but by heart, courage, and unyielding determination. The galaxy had seen the power of humanity, and it would never underestimate them again.